National Association of Police Athletic Activities League's youth organization welcomes you to its From the Voices of Youth virtual town hall series presented by Microsoft and supported by Extended Stay America. We thank you as well as our panelists for joining today's town hall event and anxiously look forward to having some great discussion and learning from each other, all in the name of youth. So now let's get started and meet today's panelists.
And we got to come together as a people.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us and kicking off the first National PAL from the Voices of Youth virtual tour series. We're thankful to be able to kick it off first in Richmond, California, being hosted by Richmond, California Police Athletic League. Before we get started, though, I would like to bring on one of our key and strategic partners in this and our presenting sponsor, if we can hear from Michelle Thomas from Microsoft. Michelle?
Hi, Jeff. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. On behalf of Microsoft Corporation, we are thrilled to partner with the National Police Athletic League to sponsor this amazing conversation with youth and elected officials and influencers throughout the U.S. At Microsoft, our mission is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. And we believe that this is just an impeccable example of our commitment to youth and to the community. So Jeff, thank you so very much.
Sure. Thank you so much, Michelle. And thank you for all the support from Microsoft. And we're looking forward to all of these cities that we're going to be touching, but more importantly, we're looking forward to touching all of these youth across the country and giving them a voice to be heard. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator for the evening, and he can get into announcing the panelists. Brandon Evans from Richmond PAL. Brandon, thank you so much for helping us out, and we're looking forward to some great dialogue and discussion. Let's introduce our panelists.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Mr. Hood, for having us. I'm one of your co-moderators. So my name is Brandon Evans, and I'm the mentor coordinator here at Richmond PAL. I have some co-moderators with me this evening, starting with Anaya Reed, Silali Santiago, and Amanda Reddick. You guys want to say hello to everybody?
Hi, guys. Hello.
They'll be working with me tonight to move us through this panel, and we're ready to go.
All right, so with that, if you want to start announcing the panelists, that'd be great. And let me say this before we get into announcing all the panelists that are here. Guys, anyone that's viewing, we have the live chat Q&A section open as well. So throughout the series, if you have any opportunities or questions that you would like to ask, please send them through the chats, and we'll see if we can fit them in throughout the series.
All right.
Okay, Brandon.
All right. Starting, Anaya is going to introduce our first two panelists. Anaya?
So, Contra Costa County District Attorney Diana Becton has spent most of her professional career as a judge, lawyer, and a manager. On September 17, 2017, she was sworn in as the 25th District Attorney for the Contra Costa County District Attorney's Office. In June 2018, District Attorney Becton was elected to a full term in office. District Attorney Becton served for 22 years as a judge in Contra Costa County, where she was elected as presiding judge.
Next up, we have our very own Police Chief, Visa French.
Chief Visa French began her career with the Richmond Police Department in 1998. As a young officer, she worked various assignments in patrol, including community policing officer, field training officer, and a bicycle patrol officer. In 2016, she was promoted to rank of Assistant Chief and recently made history as the first African American and Latina captain in the department and the youngest ever to hold the position. She attended and graduated from the Police Executive Research Forum Senior Management Institute for Police. holds an undergraduate degree in public administration and a master's degree in human resource.
All right, coming up next, we have our very own superintendent, Mr. Matthew Duffy. Amanda, take it away.
Superintendent Matthew Duffy is entering his 4th year as a superintendent. Mr. Duffy has worked to craft a culture that honors agency, creativity, innovation, and listening. In his 4 years as superintendent, Mr. Duffy opened the dual immersion Mandarin school, expanded Spanish immersion programs, and initiated 3 new K-8 programs. Mr. Duffy has also crafted innovative strategies for the WCC USD schools focused on principal and teacher leadership, STEM education, English learner support, and health, sports, and fitness.
Thank you, Amanda. Coming up next, we have Oscar Garcia.
Oscar Garcia grew up in Richmond's Iron Triangle neighborhood, and he's seen how the city has transformed over the years. Garcia still lives in the neighborhood where he grew up, though he now works as an environmental engineer at Chevron. As a member of the City of Richmond Citizen Police Commission, Garcia has ideas from lived experience about how to improve the city's police-community relations. Mr. Garcia is also the president of the Iron Triangle Neighborhood Council.
Next, we have our very own Tommy Davidson.
Tommy Davidson's exceptional range from stand-up comedy and acting to versatile music accomplishments have earned him a reputation as an extraordinary performer. Best known as one of the stars of the hit television show In Living Color, his visibility has allowed him to become a household name known for his innovative talent.
And last but not least, and we had a little mix-up on our end, we have Richmond's very own Mayor, Mayor Tom Butt. Mayor Butt is in his 2nd term as Richmond mayor and has been a part of local politics here over 30 years. He is a champion for the community and so happy to have him here. Sorry we weren't able to display his picture, but he will be on screen in just a little bit. Thank you guys for coming today. Throwing it back to you, Jeff, to get this thing started.
All right, very good. Thanks, guys. And again, those that are attending and watching, please remember, if you have any questions as we move forward, please make sure that you include them in the chat section, in the Q&A section, for us to consider asking those questions. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention our great board of directors from National PAL being in support of having something such as this in a forum, presenting of a forum to give the voices of our youth an opportunity to be heard. So with that, Brandon, we ready to go? I think the panelists are waiting to answer a few questions and have some dialogue. So with that, Brandon, I'm going to send it back to you. Thank you guys so much, panelists, for involving yourselves and giving of your time. Thank you. And Brandon, it's all you guys.
All right. Thank you again, Mr. Hood. Our first question is for our very own Chief Bisa French. My co-moderator, Anaya, is going to ask it.
As the first woman of color chosen to lead our local police department, how has the current climate between community and the police impacted or affected your first year?
Chief French, can you hear us?
Okay, I think I just got my computer working, and I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
A little bit slower, a little louder.
As the first woman of color chosen to lead our local police department, how has the current climate between community and police impacted or affected your first year?
So this first year has been very interesting as a new police chief. I've been in the interim position. I was in the interim position for about 11 months, and then for the last month I was appointed as police chief. And as you can imagine, it's been an amazing time and a very different time that will be historical with the pandemic, and then the push for police reform. So as a woman of color in this neighborhood that I've grown up in and that I've been in for the last 22 years in policing, I think it's a great opportunity for me to really marry the community with the police department in terms of what we're looking for in terms of reform. So I'm honored to be in this position.
Thank you, Chief. And we're honored to have you. Coming up next is going to be our very own Dinah Becton, and Anaya is going to ask the question.
As our elected district attorney.
Let's give her a second to get on the screen. Mrs. District Attorney, do we have you?
Yes.
All right. Anaya is going to ask your question.
As our elected district attorney, what reforms have you made or plan to make to decrease the amounts of youth being incarcerated?
So thank you for the question. And let me start out by just, first of all, thanking PAL, both local and nationally, and all of the youth. It's amazing to have this opportunity to be with you and to share with you and to hear the voices of our youth. So I'm very proud to be a part of this this afternoon. As you probably know, as a progressive prosecutor, I have taken the pledge, and that is a pledge to use my office to reduce mass incarceration in Contra Costa County. And a huge part of that work really does focus on our youth, because the pipeline begins with our youth. One of the first things that we've done, which I'm very proud of, is we worked to bring a youth restorative justice program to Contra Costa County. Our office was awarded $1 million by the state to establish a countywide youth diversion program. And it's the first program ever in Contra Costa County. It is a pre-filing diversion program. And what this means is that the youth that commit a crime are not charged at the outset. They are given an opportunity to participate with our partners, the RISE Youth Center and Impact Justice, to initiate a restorative justice model that will help them to basically be held accountable for the harm that they may have caused, but also to receive the services and a program that they may need. At the end of their successful completion, the charges are never filed, and we hope that we have brought them to a better place. We are the 4th county in California to participate in this program, and we're very, very pleased about the opportunities here for our youth. Another thing that we've done, and this is part of the work that we've also done with the Richmond Police Department, is we had a team from Contra Costa County attend a 1-week intensive program at Georgetown University that included our chief, Bisa French, along with other partners in our criminal justice system. And as part of the work, we were part of an intensive week to focus on reducing racial and ethnic disparities for our youth and in our juvenile system. Our team now is working on a key capstone project for Contra Costa County. We are focused on disparities in our suspension, expulsions, and arrests on the school grounds. And so you'll be hearing more from us about that program. And then finally, just this week, I am so excited because I announced the task force that I have created to reimagine youth justice for our entire county. As we are all aware, youth crime has been on a steady decline for about 20 years, but we still have huge disparities, racial disparities in our juvenile justice system, and the cost of housing a child in juvenile hall and in the boys ranch is well over $450,000 a year. It's a lot of money compared to what we spend on education. And so this task force is going to explore the opportunities for youth juvenile justice in our delinquency system. We are aimed at prevention so that our youth can have a much greater chance to lead successful lives, while we also focus on improving public safety. We'll be trying to divert youth from our system at arrest and at prosecution and pretrial, and I'm sure we'll be partnering with RISE and also with PAL for a lot of these programs. Also, we'll be working at every step to ensure racial and ethnic fairness in our systems. And we will be looking at decarceration of our facilities and downsizing our facilities. So those are the primary things that we're working on right now to impact our youth that become system involved.
Thank you, Mrs. District Attorney, and we look forward to working with you here at Richmond PAL. Coming up next is going to be our very own Superintendent, Mr. Matt Duffy, and Sitlali is going to ask the question. Project out.
With COVID-19 impacting the way students learn and attend school, what has been the response from the school district, and what resources exist for students and families?
That's a great question, and thanks so much for having me on the call and allowing me to participate with the youth and hear so many of your important voices. You know, the first 3 months of the COVID pandemic when we were out of school was sort of a scramble, and we learned a lot coming back for this fall. So we just opened schools in our school district 2 weeks ago. So this is our second full week of school. And what we learned was that students needed a lot more consistency in their educational program. They needed to be able to connect with their teachers more easily and more often, and that we needed to continue to be able to provide internet access, Chromebooks, and other technology. So we've put a lot of energy and effort into making sure all of our students have the appropriate technology and internet access. If you need a hotspot in our district, you can pick that up. We have a Chromebook for everybody. We've put a lot of energy into providing extra meals, extra food, because many folks in our community are really struggling and need that. And now we're working hard to make sure the distance learning program that's in place is really effective for our students, so they feel like they're engaged, and if they have to be at home and they have to be online all week long, that it's a really good program. They feel like they're connected with their teachers, connected with their peers. So that's a little bit about what we're working on during this pandemic, and happy to talk a little bit more about that later.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, and I'm sure we'll have more questions from the audience related to what's happening with our schools right now. Thank you. Coming up next is going to be our very own Mayor Tom Butt. Amanda, take it away.
What can you do as the mayor to create laws that protect people of color from social injustice?
Can you repeat that? I'm having a hard time hearing you here.
A little louder.
What can you do as the mayor to create laws that protect people of color from social injustice?
What can we do as mayor to protect people from social injustice?
Yes.
Well, you know, we're talking about that right now. As a matter of fact, after it's not so much a matter of law. It's a matter of how your police department operates, and we're having a 2-hour workshop on that right after this meeting, and the purpose of it is to hear from people about ideas they have that we can improve our police department, you know, to avoid things like that. So I'm soliciting your suggestions. You know, most of what people call social injustice that are related to law enforcement are already against the law. It's just a matter of bringing people around to operate in the way they should, and that's a matter of training. It's a matter of policy, and it's a matter of where police departments put their emphasis. So I encourage you, by the way, if you're interested, to tune in on that town hall right after this, and let us know what your suggestions are.
Where can we find the information, Mayor Butt? Is it on Facebook, on social media?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Coming up next is going to be Oscar Garcia, he's one of our police commissioners here for the city of Richmond.
What is the role of police review boards, and are they impactful?
Thank you for the question and thank you for the invitation. It's great to be here today. I was part of Richmond PAL when I was young, played in their flag football program. It's going back to your question, the impact of the police commission and how we can make change in the community. It really goes back to the ordinance. We're able to investigate incidents in which too much force or potentially racially biased incidents occur or contact occurs with the community. And we're also able to make recommendations to the police department and the city as a whole if we feel like something could be done better. And that really depends a lot on the input we get from the community and sort of complaints that are not only complaints that are filed, but also for folks attending our meetings and letting us know about things that the police department can do better. Thankfully, the commission has gotten a lot of positive support from the Richmond Police Department and other parts of law enforcement. And so we are able to make very solid recommendations that have been making a difference.
Oscar, I know you guys recently changed the name of the commission. Can you talk a little bit why that was important for community members?
Yes, we went from the Citizens Police Review Commission to the Community Police Review Commission. And the reason being is the word citizen had certain implications in the Latino community, and we wanted to make sure that all residents of Richmond knew that this resource and our ability to protect them applied to all residents. And so that's why we changed the name fairly recently. So some of our material may not be up to date.
Thank you. Mr. Hood, do we have Tommy with us?
Yes, Tommy is on.
All right, coming right up. Sidlali, let's go with Mr. Davis with question.
Okay. What can celebrities do to raise awareness on issues like police brutality and social justice?
That's a good question, and thanks everybody for having me a part of this. I think that celebrities' role is to get involved in communities and get involved with programs, get involved with law enforcement, get involved with all the elements that are involved in eliciting change. You know, everybody, especially our youth, support my career. Without people buying tickets and without people going to shows, and even the workforce, everyone provide me with a really good life. As I think it's my role as an American, and I'll say that proudly, to be a part of what's going on now as far as a solution. And I think we're at a point of what seemingly would be despair. But my mother, who was active in the community ever since I was a little kid, she always told me the people united will never be defeated. And that's everyone. It's across the board. I think it's important for celebrities to do that because we're so high profile. And we can attract so much attention, which means we can attract more people to a good cause than other people. And I'm no different than I don't have any more influence on children than a school teacher or a police officer or a mayor, but I have more access. So it's important that I be a part of a real pragmatic change, pragmatic being, a real hands-on part of it. Because what I see happening is I see that the youth are taken to the streets to try to get questions answered, and they're going against the very agencies that are there to protect them. and everybody's getting pushed to their limit. And these things that we're doing right now are really important, not only for our generation and the generation before us, but for you guys as well. The only way we're going to be able to bring some balance is that we have members of every generation in this march to get us back balanced racially.
Absolutely. Thank you for the thoughtful response, Mr. Davidson. And now in our country, it is the time for us to all come together and be united. So thank you for that. Mr. Hood, I'm going to throw it to you and see if we have any questions from the audience.
Yes. Thanks, Brandon and crew. I do have a question from the Q&A, and it says, what can we do to make it so that we have a safer community? What can youth do to get more involved with politics?
Let's pose that to maybe our chief, and then anybody else after, feel free to pick up on it. Chief?
There's a lot that the youth can do. We really want to hear from the youth because we know that you guys are the future. And so in terms of policing and how to build better relationships with the police department, we want to get involved. We know that, that having a crime prevention strategy has to include the youth. And so we want to hear from you. We want to know what your concerns are and that include the police department, how you want to work with us. We want to be partners with the youth in creating an environment that you all feel safe and comfortable. And that can only be done through dialogue. A lot of things I think come out of misunderstandings. And if we can actually sit in the room together and have a dialogue and conversation about why the police do certain things and what our practices and policies are and what you guys want us to do differently, I think that we could come to some type of medium and be able to work together towards a safe community. So the police department is always open and willing to sit down and have conversations and work together towards the common goal.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, that's a great question. In Richmond, we have over a dozen, I'm thinking maybe like about 18 different committees and commissions. The Community Police Review Commission that Oscar just talked about is one of them. But there, other than the Commission on Aging, where you have to be over 55 to serve, there are no age requirements for any of these commissions. And I always encourage young people to think about applying for a board or a commission, and it's a great way to learn about what's going on in your city, participate in it, and be a part of it. We also have a youth council, which is one of those commissions, and we have a lot of trouble recruiting people for it. I mean, some of it's because young people are in school during the school year and they're gone in the summer and then they graduate, and so they're kind of transient compared to other people. But I'm always soliciting young people to serve on our youth council, and so all you have to do is you can look on the city website under the city clerk's page under boards and commissions. You can get an application online, fill it out, and I'd love to get more young people involved. And this is a great way to do it. You don't have to run for election. You don't have to spend any money, but you can get right in there into what's going on in Richmond in whatever area of public policy you're passionate about.
Absolutely. And Mr. Duffy, you work with probably students coming in most contact with youth and students. So what are some strategies over at the district that you guys have employed kind of related to this?
Yeah, similar to what the mayor said, we definitely have a lot of youth opportunities, commissions and things like that. But I would also add, I think it's really important for our students to get as involved as they can at their schools. There's a lot that takes place there. We're trying to open up more and more of our offerings, our course offerings, to create more engaging, more politically dynamic courses from African American studies, ethnic studies, Chicano studies that our students can really dive into and get engaged with. And then I would just continue to encourage our students, if there's clubs or things that don't exist on your campus or do, we have more Black student unions, more Latino student unions, but whether it's a club you want to start, like a political awareness club, or do a book club, or anything that you might see that's not there, we're really open to that and want to try to facilitate it and make it happen, because we do know right now so many of our students want to be involved in the dialogue about what's going on, and want to have voice and want to have time to chat with each other, not just with the adults all the time, but that we can make space for them. So we're going to take our cues from the students, and hopefully what we have to offer is there, but we also ask them to really speak up if there's something we're not providing and can do.
Nice.
Hey, Brandon.
Yes, sir.
All right, have another question to be asked, and this one is for the district attorney. As the DA, can you explain your process for charging or not charging an officer for a perceived inappropriate or unjustified shooting?
So thank you again for that question. I think one of the things that I want everyone to know about is that in Contra Costa County, we have something called a protocol. So when there is an officer-involved shooting in our county, the protocol is invoked, and it's something that all the law enforcement agencies in our county have signed on to and participate in. So once the protocol is invoked, my office has a team of inspectors who go out to the scene to conduct an independent investigation. At the conclusion of the investigation, the main thing that I've done differently as district attorney is to commit to preparing and releasing a written report so that the community has an opportunity to review the decisions that I have made, and there will be complete transparency and hopefully trust between our office and the community.
Okay, thank you. And
You're
then
welcome.
there was another question. As superintendent, and this is to the question for the superintendent, as superintendent, what is being done to ensure a level educational playing field for all youth within the public school system?
You are on mute.
Thank you. Sorry about that. It's an incredibly important question, and one, for me personally, really the reason that I am in the profession and doing the work that I'm doing. We still sadly do see disproportional outcomes for our African American and Latino youth in our district and our community. So we are putting more and more effort into making sure the outcomes across the board are more equitable. We're doing that through a variety of ways. We're training and talking to all of our staff every Friday now during this pandemic about race, equity, identity. We are doing work across our system to look at who is in which classes, which students make up our honors classes, for example, how to ensure more students of color are in those types of classes, ensuring that we have the proper data to let us know when students need immediate intervention. We're doing a lot more work around early literacy to make sure we're getting at our students as young as possible. So it's a very, very big focus of the district to make sure students are receiving an equal and equitable education across the board. And I really appreciate the question.
Sure. And next question is for Chief. Chief, can you speak to the recent cry for defunding the police and how that might have a negative impact on community-supported youth programs such as PAL and the likes?
Yeah, so there's a lot of talk and discussion about defunding and even abolishing the police. And here in the city of Richmond, we're in a unique position because the city has some financial constraints that we are also dealing with. And so through this last budget cycle, the police department was already defunded about 11% of our budget. The unfortunate part is that defunding and the money, the savings from those positions and the money that we lost here in the police department aren't unfortunately going to the services that the community is looking to fund, like, you know, mental health services and homeless services and drug addiction services. That money is just going to try to fill the gap that we have here in our city. So that's the unfortunate part. But I actually agree that a lot of these services do need to be funded in some way. If we're funding these services like mental health and homeless services, then we're less likely to have to deal with people in crisis situations. They're going to be getting the help that they need much earlier on. What that means for the youth is, you know, luckily we're able to still keep our funding for PAL, but we did lose our contract with the school district, and you know that impacts our level of connectivity to the young people in our community. When we were in the schools, we were able to really focus on solving problems, long-term problems, and taking the time and effort to build relationships with youth so that when a problem arose, we were able to really mitigate that without making it a law enforcement problem. Even though it was law enforcement dealing with it, we weren't taking these kids or young people and putting them into the criminal justice system. We were working on other solutions. My fear is now beat officers will be responding to the schools, and they don't have as much time to spend to really, you know, to really mitigate these instances. If it's a crime issue, then we deal with it by, you know, making arrest if we can and moving on, because they have the beat officers have additional calls that they need to respond to. So we're looking at different ways that we can still have officers be committed to more longer term problem solving with our youth. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like. We are looking at keeping some of the other youth programs that we have, like our diversion program, because again, we don't want to send young people into the criminal justice system. So being able to continue with our diversion program and connect with youth in that way, I think will also be helpful. And then we're also soliciting input from the community on other ways that we can really connect with our youth. PAL is another great example, and we're looking and working with our local PAL to get more involved on a daily basis with PAL, and not just for certain programs, but how we can really be integrated with young people on a daily basis.
Great. And I have a question before I turn it back over to the panel. And this question is, again, we're here because of engaging the voices of our youth. So we'd like to now, this question is going to be posed to the youth on the panel, and each of them can take a stab at answering. As a youth in the community, what most concerns you or bothers you in today's society?
Savali, let's go first.
Well, something that most concerns me is how police interact with youth in light of all the events that have been going on, like around the country. Like, how can the police, I guess, protect us.
Amanda?
One thing that concerns me is how youth can get more involved with things that are going on with their city and with their school, and just having their voices amplified more.
Nice. What about you, Anaya?
One thing that concerns me is how can we fix the social injustice around in our communities and help our communities feel safer, and a way that we connect the police and the community to make them come together.
Great answer.
Go ahead, Brandon. I'm going to turn it back over to you guys now to fulfill some additional questions for the panel.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hood. All right, so starting back with our DA, Mrs. Becton. Naya has a question for you.
What strategies are being put into place that will aid in reducing or eliminating senseless shootings and abuse?
You are on mute.
I think she's muted.
It's a great question. I'm thinking it probably would have been better for the chief, but I'll try to take a stab at it. I think some of
Mrs. District Attorney, what about this violence? Yeah, reduce violence in our communities.
Oh, okay. Well, I think some of the strategies that we've talked about already, including, being very engaged with our community, especially the work that we're going to be doing with our Reimagining Youth Justice task force. We're going to be engaging with not only people that are traditionally like our department heads and stuff, but we will be engaging with families and with youth with lived experiences. So I think that through those discussions, we're going to hear a lot about the efforts that we can take to reduce violence in our community. I think the other things that we're doing, we do have a Safe Streets Task Force in Contra Costa County. It primarily concentrates its attention on those who might be committing the most violent crimes within our county. And then there's an outreach to give those folks an opportunity to say, hey, here's some different things that you could do, as opposed to the acts of crime that you're committing in our community. And we want to work with you to help you accomplish healthier goals. And so those are things that we're doing. We also work with our law enforcement departments all over the county to strategize about how we can reduce violence in our communities. Some of the communities have established night walks and things of that nature. We participate in those as well, reaching out to our communities to let them know that we're here and we're available to try to help keep everyone safe.
Nice. Some amazing work, Mr. District Attorney. So thank you for that. Coming up next is actually going to be our mayor, and Amanda has our question.
As the mayor, what accountability measures do you most seek to enforce or might need to be devised within underserved communities?
You're gonna have to ask that again. I'm having trouble with my sound. Say again.
As the mayor, what accountability measures do you most seek to enforce or might need to be devised within underserved communities?
Well, I think one thing that's worth understanding is that as a mayor and city council, we don't actually run the city. We have a city manager who runs the city. The police chief works for the city manager, and our job is mainly to set policies and provide budgets for to operate the city.
I think we might have, our mayor might have frozen. Are you with us, Mayor Butt? Okay. When we get him back, we'll follow back up with. Mayor Butt, can you hear us? Okay, we're gonna move along and we'll follow up with the mayor after the next question. Next question is for Oscar. And Sitlali is gonna ask it.
Growing up here in Richmond, what was your experience, and were there programs like Our Pal then for adolescents?
Yeah, I want to say our pal was key, if probably not more key, when I was growing up in Richmond, when crime was a lot higher in the 80s and 90s. The
things that we're looking at.
Oh, he's back.
Mr. Mayor.
Should I continue, or do we
Right
want?
now and again, I told you about this, about the
We'll let the
town
mayor
hall
go ahead
that's
and start.
happen right after.
I think. No, Oscar, sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can, but you're kind of choppy, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
No problem. Oscar, continue, please. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Mr. Mayor. We're going to come back to you after Oscar.
All right.
Go ahead, Oscar.
Yeah, so I think youth programs are extremely important.
Okay, is Oscar finished?
No,
he's not.
I think he has a delay.
Yeah, we'll go back to you after the next question, Mayor Butt, if you can hear us.
Yeah,
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Can't hear me? Oh wow, that's crazy.
No.
Yeah. Mayor, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you fine, but
okay. We can hear you much better now. So
okay.
what we're gonna do is Oscar was speaking. We're gonna let Oscar finish speaking and then come back and get the remainder of your conversation.
Okay.
all right. So yeah, just to rehash, the question was how did youth programs have an impact on me or on youth in general when I was growing up? And programs like Richmond PAL have a significant impact. I grew up in the 80s and 90s in Richmond when it was a lot rougher, and those of us that played the various sports offered by Richmond PAL helped keep us, focused on, getting better in our sports instead of getting in trouble out in the streets. And so I'm very thankful for Richmond PAL and any other sort of youth-oriented program like that, because it helps youth stay focused. And for me, it definitely helped me stay out of trouble. So I'm extremely appreciative of it.
Thank you, Oscar. Mayor Butt, let's continue.
Yeah, I think the question to me was one about it was about policies, and what I was trying to say is
I think we just lost our mayor again.
Yeah, I think he's frozen again, and also if we can just proceed.
Okay. Next question is actually for Tommy, and I'm going to ask it because I think I'm the only one who was probably born, at least on this panel, when this show was on air. So heard recently that one of my childhood favorites, the Proud Family, is actually going to be coming to Disney Plus, and I believe you were a part of the original cast, but I hear that there will be a new character voiced by Keke Palmer, who is actually a young activist. And what can you shed light what you can about how that character came about, or your interaction with that character, and why do you feel it's important to see that depicted on screen television?
yeah, I think I lost you for a while. Are we back now?
You did, but we're gonna Right back to you.
Well, first of all, the answer to your question is yes, we back. Prayer family is back. Sugar Mama and all of them. Sugar Mama, Penny, Trudy, all of us. We'll be on Disney and see you. I just wanted to do that real quick because that's been sitting in my office forever. But yeah, it is coming back to Disney Plus. It's a beautiful thing that we're back on television after so many years. We raised a lot of children on that show, and most importantly, we're back at a time where we need to bring all of our children together. It's our responsibility. Proud Family was never looked at as, this black show. We were just looked at as people that are a part of a rainbow community, which is what America really looks like, especially in the urban sectors. Absolutely. Where we are. And so it's a good thing for us because it is Disney, and Disney includes all types of children from all around the country. And so it's a show of not only inclusion, but it's a show of good balance for all of us. And the ethics and morals that come from each culture are all shared by us at the same time. But it could be sort of a divide can be created from some of the practices of politics. Our children are the same. Parents across the board are the same. People all are out here trying to do the best they can for their family, and we all want the same things. So I'm really excited about the show, because I'm working again. I've been in a pandemic, and there's no use of me being bored because I'm adjusting to it. I built a studio in my house, so I do all my voiceovers from home, and we're compiling all these episodes that are going to be ready for everybody to see. And so it's a good thing to be back to work, and I'm really excited about the new audience that we're going to get. That's going to be coming in. Absolutely. We can't wait to see it. Thank you. All right, Mr. Hood, I'm going to toss it your way.
Okay.
For audience questions.
Yes, and I do have another question here. I guess this may be directed towards the DA. It says, who has investigative authority on use of force complaints, and does the DA have access to internal affairs files?
Okay, so the last part first, no, we do not have access to the IA files, but we do have the authority to investigate complaints of use of force.
Okay.
And if I can jump in, this is Oscar Garcia. The Community Police Review Commission also has the authority to investigate officer-involved shootings in the city of Richmond. So I wanted to mention that as well.
Okay. Thank you. And I have another question as well. It says, I really want to ask someone, how am I supposed to act when I'm stopped by the police? I guess that's for you, Chief.
I'll take that one. So my standard message, and I get this a lot from families and friends, and of course, they're seeing what's going on nationwide. They want to protect themselves. They want to protect their kids. I'm in the same position. I have 3 kids, a 26-year-old, a 17-year-old, an 11-year-old, 2 of them males, and I want to protect them also. And my message to them is always comply now, complain later. So if they feel like there's something that's not going right, they feel like they shouldn't have been stopped, whatever the complaint is, just comply with what the officer is saying in the moment. And there's always a mechanism to make a complaint, either through the police department. Many cities, like our city, has community police review commission, so you don't even have to make the complaint with the department. You can make it with other agencies, and go about it that way, because in the moment, the officer is the one with the power, and we want everybody to be safe and go home safe. The officers want to go home safe. The person that they're stopping or interacting with, I'm sure, wants to be safe. And so my message is comply now, complain later.
Yes, and it's interesting, the follow-up question to that question is, we often hear about youth being told how to deal with an officer. Is there training for an officer to deal with the youth?
Yeah, I don't think that there's enough training. As we know, the youth brain is still developing all the way up until really you're 25 years old. And so for specifically for our officers that we know are engaged with youth, specifically that have been our school resource officers, we were giving them additional training in policing the teenage brain, other trainings that was specifically youth oriented. Now we know that all of our officers engage with the youth, and so we want to expand that training so that all of our officers are prepared and they're dealing with the youth in the best way possible. So we'll be looking into that training and conducting that training in the near future for all of our officers. Additionally, we want to have training that involves the youth. We want to be able to work with PAL and the other youth service organizations like RISE, so that we can work together on some role playing and other things that occur, so that we're preparing our youth and we're preparing for these engagements so that they go the best way possible.
Yes.
And if I could add to the first part of the question as well. First of all, I 100% agree with the advice that Chief Bisa just gave about complaining later. But I just wanted to mention that throughout the community, there are a number of bar associations and different organizations that host events in our community called Know Your Rights. And you should just look for those on social media. They're really excellent, very, very experienced public defender and district attorney who put these on to help our youth as well as their families understand what your rights are when you are encountered by law enforcement. And really and truly, the message is the same as the one that the chief has given you. It just gives you more information to know, is this a stop? Is this a detention? Is this an arrest? Am I free to go? How you should react in those situations, with the main goal being able to keep yourself safe in that moment. And as Chief French said, to complain later. There's also usually some very good scenarios of role playing, so that often the youth are involved as well. And we've also hosted some in Richmond where we've also had law enforcement come in to have roundtables with our youth. So they've just been well attended and an excellent source of information so that you can get all of those questions answered.
Okay, great. Guys, I want to thank each of you again for being a part of this inaugural From the Voices of Youth Town Hall series. I also want to make mention for everyone that is on, whether visiting or a panelist, our next session will be Tuesday, September 1st at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. And but we're going to be in Houston, Texas, with Chief Acevedo and Mayor Turner and a whole host of others, and most importantly, again, our youth. But one question, because in light of this next session or meeting that I think that you and the mayor and several have, we want to be good stewards of the time. But there is a question that I want to put to you guys, and if each of you can take not a long time, because we want to try and get out by 8:20 or our time, 5:20 your time, and to give some thought to this question. The question is this: in the future, if and when your grandchild or a young person asks you, where did you stand back in August of 2020 during the outbreaks of rioting and discord, where did you stand and for what did you stand that makes you proud? And I guess we'll start since Madam DA was on. I guess we can start with you, and then if we can kind of go down the panel to answer that would be great.
Well, I'll say I took a stand, especially in light of the protests following the killing of George Floyd by Minneapolis police officers. I am part of a coalition of current and former elected prosecutors, and we do represent millions of Californians in diverse counties all across California. So the first thing I did was to put out a statement to denounce the killing, denounce the violence that has happened so many times over and over in our communities, and to stand up to be a voice that speaks out for racial and ethnic fairness, and to be treated with human dignity in our communities. So that would be the first thing. And then the other thing that I've done, I think, is really a culmination of all the things that we've put in place. We've talked mostly about youth, but all of the many other programs to reduce mass incarceration, and also to make sure that we have our policies in effect, so that when there are allegations of improper conduct by law enforcement, we're available and stand ready to investigate those as well. We've also tried to take a stand to make sure that we are disentangling ourselves as elected prosecutors from the close ties that we have with law enforcement when it comes time for us to stand for election. We have to work closely with law enforcement in order to successfully prosecute our cases. But when that same officer is one who's committing what we believe might be a crime, it looks very, very improper for the unions that represent that officer to also be paying for their defense. And so I've also stood up to ask and require elected prosecutors not to seek those donations when they're standing for election. There are a host of things, but there's a lot of people to talk tonight, so I just wanted to mention those two.
Okay, and thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So as we stand now, my pledge is to stand and do what's right, not only for the police department, but for the community, and make sure that those two, the police and the community, are aligned. So as a woman of color, and as I stated before, I have 3 kids, and so I understand what the community, especially our community, is pushing for, because I'm a part of this community. Not only do I serve this community, but I live here. So I'm in every way a part of this community. And as a woman of color, when I take this uniform off, I feel the same injustices and threats that the rest of the community feels. And so my pledge is to do what's right, again, for our community, and make sure that I put in policies and procedures within the department so that, this incident with George Floyd does not happen in Richmond, California. And I pledge to do that as long as I serve as a chief there. And I have to log off for another meeting, and so thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you so much, Chief. We greatly appreciate you you making time.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good evening.
You too. And I guess Commissioner.
Hi, everyone. So the role I've taken in light of everything that's been happening recently is helping people have a voice. The commission helped support a peaceful Black Lives Matter protest back in July, and I helped organize it and make sure we have some good speakers like our chief. And then I'm also working with fellow commissioners to make sure that people are making their voice heard in the upcoming election. The youth vote, especially those that are turning 18 ahead of the election, their voice is especially important. And so just making sure folks are registered to vote and are ready for the changes in voting because of COVID-19. So just trying to make sure in every capacity that the voice of the youth, people of color is being heard. That's the position I've taken.
Okay, thank you. Superintendent?
Thank you. I believe that, I have stood and continue to stand on the right side of justice and see it in both professional and personal terms. Leading our school district and leading the organization, my word to our folks is that we're going to do everything we possibly can to make sure our youth, especially our African American youth, are protected and loved and taken well care of while they're in our custody. And as a father of 2 boys, making sure they're in the dialogue, making sure they are knowing exactly what's going on, taking them on peaceful protests where we can so that they are not ignorant to anything that's going on. So I think I've tried to plant myself firmly, both professionally and personally, in the struggle.
Okay, Tommy?
I think I'll be able to say that I took a stand right in the middle for everyone, and from what I truly believe, I took a stand for, municipal and public officials. I took a stand for the greater law community, the court systems. People who are in these positions are in a tough position because they see our kids come through there, and they're trying to, deal with crime versus punishment, and sometimes their hands are tied because they can't reach the youth. I take a stand for non-racist white America and progressive white America. I take a stand for African Americans, for the injustices that we continue to have, because it's racism and it's not a race-wasm. This is going to affect us all. I take a stand for the Latino community because I come from a Latino and Black community. I take a stand for America. I take a stand for our country. I take a stand for our country, making sure that everybody has an equal and fair, balanced chance to be able to be protected. I take a stand for well-meaning police officers in the law enforcement agencies, because without them, what will we really have? I take a stand for the responsible parties who are not upholding those standards responsible. And I take a stand for my part in it, whereas being accountable and being able to be called on for any of the many facets that exist that I know I can bring justice to by my presence and my influence. And like I said before, my mom is the one she put in place a policy around our neighborhood when we were going through some police abuse issues, that the police couldn't come into our neighborhoods unless they were called. So it's me watching her with her different policies. She also let my butt stay locked up until I learned how to, get out there and really work. And all of the parents in the neighborhood really work on the individuals and all of us to take another look at our behavior and the part that we play. So I take a stand for all of the above, and most of all, I take this stand to stay committed to all of our causes.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much, Tommy. I appreciate it. And thank everyone. So we've gone over a little bit of our time. But what we would like for everyone to do first, in the Q&A section, we've put a link in there for those that are watching and participating. There is a survey that we put in the Q&A section. If you wouldn't mind to take a few seconds, it's not long at all. If you guys can take an opportunity to fill out the survey, it helps us to continue to do better. You know, we're not opposed to looking at ourselves and all either. So if everyone can take an opportunity and complete the survey, we would greatly appreciate it. Also, again, prior to closing, we want to thank Microsoft and Extended Stay America and Sports Engine and for partnering with us in this endeavor. And I can't say enough about Richmond PAL and their youth, their staff, Larry and Brandon, for being so committed to being the first to kick this off with us. And I can't thank you guys enough for your willingness to be able to have your young people involved and to be heard. And so with that, again, I thank you guys for joining and participating. And Brandon, very quickly, I'm going to turn it over. I don't know if you and the young people have anything last points that want to be made before we wind up closing out.
Yeah, excuse me, absolutely. Again, just want to thank National PAL for bringing this to us and entrusting us to be the kickoff event. Want to thank our panelists for all your tireless work and the time committed to, you know, supporting communities and constituencies. Thank you again for being here tonight and on your personal time to spend with us and impart wisdom to these young people. This was one of our summer projects, one of our youth ambassador summer projects. So this is bringing our summer to a close. It was an amazing time. You guys have a good time?
Yes.
All right. And I just want to say thank you again. And we'll see you at the next event in Houston on Tuesday. Take care, everybody.
Exactly. Thank you. And again, guys, please fill out and take the time to engage with the survey. Thank you guys so much. And we look forward to seeing everyone on Tuesday in Houston. And continue to please spread the word. Thank you, guys. Y'all take care and be safe.